Hi everyone, welcome to the first keynote of SINFO 31. Thank you so much for being here. Right now we're going to have a keynote by Joseph from GitHub Security Lab. I hope you enjoy. There's going to be a challenge somewhere throughout the keynote where he's going to give out vouchers to who wins the challenge. There's 3 €50 vouchers. Vouchers to be won. At the end, we're also going to sort summer festival ticket. So please don't go away as soon as it ends. And that's it. I hope you enjoy. Give it up for Joseph.
Thanks, man. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the talk, Code Security Reinvented, Navigating the Era of Artificial Intelligence. I come from GitHub, which is the platform that 100 million plus developers are building, scaling, and delivering secure software. And specifically, I'm coming from the GitHub Security Lab, which is a team of security experts with the mission to secure the open source software we all depend on. And quick question for you today. How many of you are using directly or indirectly open source software? Exactly. Because if you are using a fridge or if you are driving a car, it's highly likely that you have open source components in that software. And it's in that software that my team has found and helped fix more than 1,000 security vulnerabilities in the past 4 years, 500 plus of which have been given security identifiers, also known as CVEs. We do a lot of security research for the open source software, like, for example, Linux, Android, systems that you use or the companies that you use are using in the supply chain. And this 96% there as fixed rate is something that we are very proud about, because we are talking about communication and collaboration between 2 different worlds. These 2 worlds are very different, and it's the world of security and the world of developers. The good news, however, before the good news, I want to visualize the problem. There is 1 application security specialist for every 100 software developers. And let's try to visualize in this room how many of you are considering or are already working in cybersecurity here. Wait, 1, 2, 3. Did I miss somebody? Okay, we are 3 here. And we are among 160 people based on how I measured the chairs before. So you see, we are pretty much coming up in this. There is this gap in cybersecurity space, in software security space, and we believe that this gap is behind a lot of the attacks you see every day and you hear about. This is because when you don't have someone to help you, when you don't have someone to consult, to secure your software, eventually, your software will suffer data breaches. The good news, however, is that the world's collective security knowledge is out there. It's in books, tutorials. It's publicly available if we want to go after it. And AI can go and distill this knowledge. It can learn from this public information. And AI can bring it to us in our fingertips. All okay? Okay. Quick step back. What is AI? I use this quote from IBM. AI leverages the problem-solving capabilities of the human mind and mimics it to make decisions. If you read behind the words here, it's like problems that humans already solved. We can take these ways that we are solved, and instead of spending time to solve again, we can just take the ready solutions and be faster, more productive. and in general have less friction in the future, spend less money, time, and effort. Traditional ways of AI before ChatGPT came in our lives was like assistants like this one on my screen, but then we all know about that. Who has used ChatGPT in the past month? Okay, so pretty much everybody in this room. I'll tell you a quick story here. In the same way that you are in university now, I was about to start my university 10 years ago. I'm 30 years old. So I had an interview to go to the university, okay? And during the interview process, the professor there asked me, our university wants to pursue some research in AI in the next 3 to 5 years. Are you interested in AI? It was 2014, okay? And I said, well, my interest is security, but I'm happy to learn more about AI. But on that day, I exited the interview, and my parents asked me, so how did it go? And I said, he asked me about AI. And nobody from my family knew about AI. Nobody from my friends knew about AI. But nowadays, you are in an airplane or in the gym or somewhere in a party, and you hear about, have you seen this crazy thing that AI did? I think one day AI is gonna be, So now it's in our lives because we have seen an application like this. And in the future, there are more and more applications to use Gen 3, Gen 4 cars to have AI more and more embedded in our lives. There's some irony though. In this here, this image here, this image here, there are thousands, if not millions, of software developers behind. No? How many people do you need to code something like this? But until recently, behind these software engineers, there was no AI to help them with what they do, which is to write great software. And this changed recently with GitHub Copilot as the leading AI assistant. Of course, there are other AI assistants as well. But it's the first time that software experiences this revolution of having an AI pair programmer, an AI assistant, helping software developers to write code. Do you like that? Are you happy with AI coding assistants? Who is happy with them? Okay. Let's see the next slides. And when you leave this room today, I hope I make you happier to use them. So for those that haven't used an AI assistant before, it looks pretty much like this. You can put a command in the form of a logic or requirement, and then you use natural language, and then you get code suggestions like this one. I'm an average programmer, and I tell you that for me to write line 3, you will have to go have lunch, rest, come back, and I'm still writing line 3, okay? Because I have to Google the syntax, I have to write that, and I have to test it. But right now, it was suggested to me in a fraction of a sec. I got the result, might be correct, might not be correct. I can generate tests, I can go forward. What's my point? Maybe I enjoy other things more. Maybe I have other things to do during my day to contribute in the success of my company, my team, my personal growth, and so on. If we forget about me and we see about the people around the world, our reports say that 90% feel that they are faster coders and 88% feel happier because they remove friction. This is my second favorite statistic for today. I'll explain it. So at the end of 2022, 35% of all the code committed to GitHub, and all the code is around 4 billion lines, was AI generated. 1 year later, December 2023, This has gone to 60% for popular languages like Java. So 60% of 4 billion, 2.4 billion lines of code were AI generated. This means that AI is in our lives. Today I'm here to show you 4 ways that you can use these AI coding assistants to leverage, to use, to get the power of, for your benefit, of the security knowledge that was consumed from this AI, and it's now in your fingertips. Let's get started. The first case is to write safer code. And I'll need the help of someone here. Let's see who is like a security gifted person. I know we have a few professionals in the room. Can someone tell me, take a few seconds, what is wrong in this snippet of code here today? Yes. Yes, you are right. Which line? Correct. So I'm repeating for everybody to understand. Thanks a lot, you are a legend. So line 23 suffers from a SQL injection because the user parameter is passed as unsanitized into the code base. And how can someone exploit that? Instead of passing a username, someone can pass something malicious that is not a username, such as closing the semicolon, using the semicolon in the query and dropping the users table, or getting a bit more creative by, for example, creating an admin user with escalated privileges so that they can mess up with the database, and you have some classic logic bombs that can disclose data. Some programmers I know would highlight this snippet of code. Now line 23 is using what is called parameterized statements. So you have this $1, which is a placeholder, and you can pass this parameter in a way that is safe. I tell you this, line 23 is correct now, doesn't suffer from a security vulnerability. But can someone help me? This is a tough example, it's difficult. Can someone try to help me with how can someone attack what I have on screen now? Yes.
Not your name. Pass a different name than is yours.
Not exactly. Okay, this is a tough one. People get it right once every a few months, okay? The problem, but before I tell you the problem, let me explain why I want to show you something difficult. Because in a business situation, I have some concerns that something doesn't work correctly here. And I ask the audience, can you help me with that? Maybe you can't help me with that. So we are losing time, money, effort, and maybe we can ship this as it is in production. With AI, I can just ask. And I want to share this concern, in line above, what is now 22, because we are in JavaScript, we can pass an object instead of a username that is a string, and still achieve SQL injection because the object is going to be casted into a string and then achieve the SQL injection. I'm creating a JavaScript object that is then becoming a string, and I can still achieve the injection. So maybe I feel a bit intimidated to ask someone. Maybe it's late, maybe it's a weekend, but AI is here, I can ask this. And in this case, the proposal is correct. You have to make sure that you can use something like a regular expression. You can use like an is in JavaScript, is type, to make sure that what you have is what you expect to have. Why I show you this? Because it's a common mistake that developers do. The common mistake is context and space. In this case, we didn't give context. We didn't give some logic requirements to help the AI assistant. We just chose the code and we deleted it. And we didn't choose the whole thing. Line 22 was not included. How can someone do better in this? We can help AI to help us. You give the logic first by saying something like, if user is not empty and user is a string, you give the right space, and here you get the type check, and you can go on. And if you want to do this in one step, you put the comment first, and then you delete it. Why it's important? Because we are talking about models. These AI models have billions of, options. You have to help them to narrow down the options in specific directions and move down that pathway. We added a filter as well to help developers not getting vulnerable suggestions, because in the beginning, when Copilot was trained in all public available software. And this includes software that suffers from vulnerabilities, includes software that is not so secure. But I didn't come to Lisbon today to tell you that AI is gonna solve all our problems. And this is something that I want you to live with today, thinking that this guy was honest and he presented both, both phases of the coin. So nobody's perfect, not even AI. I'm gonna show you some examples to reason about that, and I'm gonna share some anecdotes for my personal research to prove that. The best practice is to secure all your code, okay? Including the code that has been suggested to you. And you can do so by products that are built for that case, that are advanced. Let's see an example here. I have this code that I showed you all this time. It's easy for me to keep this example on, and I'm asking, list the security issues in the code and propose fixes for each of them. In this specific case, the response I have is good, is accurate, is helping with 100% of the issues in the code. But let's understand why. Because it's a variant of SQL injection that comes up a lot. It's in books, it's in tutorials. The people who do this mistake, that's the mistake they do 95% of the times. They just pass a string like this one here, unsanitized, okay? So AI has seen this a lot of times. It knows that is bad, it tells you that is bad. But when I go very niche, very advanced, I tried to create my own cryptographic library. And I tried to create my own randomness source, which is very bad, because I didn't have a good source of randomness. So AI was like, okay. I was having some good suggestions on how to develop, but when at the top of my file, in this example I give you, I imported a library that is known to be safe, is known to be strong library, community secured. Then my assistant was like, I see you use at the top this library. All good, all tick box, go on. You see, you can cheat in this kind of cases. So remember that the variant of SQL injection here, it was simple. It can help a lot of developers around the world. Yes, a big percentage. But again, the best practice is to test all your code, including the code that has been suggested to you. Copilot is a co-pilot. You are the pilots, okay? This was my point. Copilot is not here to replace security testing. It's an LLM. Is designed to predict the next word, which means that you give some code, it predicts the next keyword. Advanced security tools that we are gonna see in the next slides are built for that. Behind the scenes, they are building databases for your code, they are having advanced capabilities, chain tracking, data flow, and they can find security problems more reliably. Okay. However, AI is not here to replace developers. That's a good point, actually. AI is not here to replace developers. We believe that this technological revolution is going to open more opportunities for people to work in our industry instead of people losing their jobs. Microsoft and GitHub both have a partnership and a common vision, and they believe that more and more work opportunities are going to be created in that. However, it's these developers that are responsible for these numbers you see here. This is the data breach investigation report from 2023 from a company called Verizon, which is like a telecom company in USA. 49% of the data breaches happened because of use of stolen credentials, such as passwords or secrets. This number was around 42% the year before, so it's up by 7%. 17% phishing, 6% exploitation of vulnerabilities. You see how much is the human factor here. We saw this problem, and we decided to use AI for more and more issues like that. And we introduced it in secret scanning. Before I explain how we introduced AI in secret scanning, it is worth understanding what is secret scanning without AI first. So, in the last year alone, we stopped 30,000 secrets from being published online, and we stopped them locally. Because how it works is that we have some patterns, and these patterns are identified in your local production, in your local code, and then they are stopped the moment you are pushing your code before going in the internet. Because once it's public, it's public. It's going to be found somewhere in the logs, in history, and so on. We bring AI in the following way, in generic secrets. There are some secrets that it's impossible to detect because they don't have a specific pattern. Like, for example, passwords. How do you know how lengthy is a password? How do you know what exactly it includes? So we bring it in order to understand secrets like this and help even more. We are going to know the final results at the end of the year, and I hope that Verizon or any other data reports are improving based on our new capabilities. Now, the second way to use AI as a developer is to find a security issue. Let's understand how. Before I told you that there are some advanced tools that are designed with security in mind. Such tools, and actually the most productive of the security tools, the strongest security tools, fall in this category here, which is called SAST, Static Application Security Testing. These tools are reading your software, are reading your code, and they decide if it's vulnerable. So we call them as an inside-out approach, because they know the inside. Such a tool, used in GitHub, produced by GitHub, and so on, is CodeQL. Stands for Code Query Language. Let me explain a bit how it works. Question to you, who is familiar with SQL? Perfect. The vast majority of the room. In the same way you use SQL to say, from this table, choose the users that they are born today. You can say something similar, like, from my code, choose the functions that are getting user input inside my program. And you can go in detail. You can name the functions. You can speak about the parameter of the function. Is it the first parameter? Is it the second parameter? This can help you to query your own code for vulnerabilities. I'm going to build a bit more background with you before I show you how you can use AI today with CodeQL and SaaS tools in general. As a consumer, you just have to have this tool enabled in your pipeline. You write some code, you push it, and then this tool runs behind the scenes and tells you if you have a vulnerability or not. It just takes a sec to enable it. It's free for your public projects in GitHub, and of course open source, because open source is public. And then the alerts look like this. I pushed my code, and I'm having this list of security vulnerabilities detected alongside severity. You have an explanation here. And you are inside a pull request, so you can, of course, have a conversation, fix it, push again. The experience for someone until very recently was that they saw a security vulnerability, then they come back to their editor, they try to fix it, and they push again. But we bring AI in place, and before I show you that, I want to touch on this number. This is my favorite statistic from today. I told you that SaaS tools are the strongest among the security tools. So from all the ways someone can find a security vulnerability before production, including pen testing, yeah, it's debatable if it's before production. Let's say all ways someone can find a security vulnerability. Dynamic application security testing, manual code review, penetration testing. Someone can find and tell you. SaaS tools are responsible for the 50% of the findings, therefore fixes. This is the largest percentage. So if we use AI wisely here, this can become stronger. This is the mindset we have at GitHub, and that's why we build AI tools like that. This is called code scanning autofix. The name is not important. What it removes is the human from the equation. I don't have to come back to my code editor to fix it manually and push again. I have the fix on the time I push. I created this feature that creates personalization for users. I pushed it on my repo, and here I have straight away a suggestion, more like not a suggestion, but an alert. Like, you know, what you have has a reflected cross-site scripting vulnerability. This is how it occurs. The source of the problem is this one. The source is where things start to be wrong. And then below you have the sink. The sink is the place that something that is vulnerable is exploited, is the place that it does the boom. So you can dismiss it, but of course you have the suggestion straight away. What is in red was what I pushed. What is in green is what is suggested by AI. So now I can just commit it. I don't have to come back to my local machine, and I can go on. Of course, I can code for it using a code space. Code space is a VM inside a browser. You have 60 hours for free every month. And the challenge that Tomasz said, and I'm going to give you at the end, you can play inside a code space, so you don't have to install anything at your own computer, and you are in your browser. Let's go on. The second way you can use CodeQL, and I'm still building background here, we are going to be a bit more advanced now, because one day you are going to leave uni, you are going to join a company, you are going to start your own companies, and you are going to arrive at a situation that you push code and you are getting some alerts. And it might be from a software like this one. So you can write queries yourself, or your security team can write queries. Let's understand how. Super quick. This is an Android application that tries to do authentication, asking for a username and a password. And of course, we can use CodeQL. 5, 6 lines are enough to say, you know what? Find me that place in that code that the username or the password is getting added in the code. I want to check something on that method. I want to check if they are sanitized or if they are not sanitized. And the good thing is that your security team or yourself don't even have to write that query, because there's a huge community of enterprises, My team is part of that community. I can give you an idea of these companies. NASA, a large e-commerce website in Latin America called Mercado Libre. 95% of the speakers who are gonna speak in this conference, their companies are using CodeQL. I try not to name. So what I'm trying to say is that when they find a vulnerability using a query, they can give that query to us, and we can merge that query in the standard set of queries that every time you push code, it's run automatically behind the scenes to give you an alert like the ones we see before. And if you remember Log4j, that famous vulnerability, imagine you are someone living in New Zealand, and you have someone in Latin America contributing a query to us. When you wake up in New Zealand, your code is gonna be secure because you benefit, you inherit the security knowledge of the community. Let's now see AI. I can ask my code assistant to give me community contributed queries, a short list of community contributed queries for the variant of the vulnerability in my code, so I don't go through the community contributions myself. This is a huge time saver. You know, your code is vulnerable to this specific variant of SQL injection. SQL injection is an umbrella term. It can go wrong maybe 25 different ways, okay? So out of those 25 ways, I give you a short list, and then I ask, you know, can you customize even more one of these queries that have been contributed from the community to my code? So now you get also code suggested, and at the top, you have instructions on how to install. You can, of course, ask for a query in the first place. Get all paths to the inner HTML property of a DOM node. I'm looking for places where a user can add code towards looking for a DOM-based cross-site scripting vulnerability. And here, all this code I have is a query that I can run it, and I can go in that property straight away. The next way you can use it, of course, is to explain code or to get some fix suggestions, and straight away, you get some explanations. Let's now go to a more developer-friendly area. Finally, exciting results with AI-powered vulnerability models. This is something that I'm excited about because CodeQL is a language. We develop the libraries behind it, we develop it as a language, and we try to use AI for pattern recognition because software is gigantic. There are so many libraries, so many possibilities. If you use AI to let AI develop the language for you, and this is what we did for some cases, we found a vulnerability in Gradle just because of that. So AI found that vulnerability through CodeQL. We published this and more in GitHub Advisory Database, which is a free human-created database that empowers dependable. Pretty much every vulnerability we discovered is analyzed here. Quick summary, CodeQL is free for open source, 10 supported languages, community-powered, and AI modeling is contributing to its success. Let's now go to the third case for today, which is developer training. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of a software developer that got an alert about a security vulnerability. How many of you will Google it first thing first? Exactly. When you arrive in any blog post, in any article, in any Stack Overflow situation, what you are going to arrive is going to lack, what you are going to arrive at is going to lack personalization. So you can ask here, you know, explain SQL injection to me with examples. And you can now ask, can you tailor your examples on my code, on the specific variant of SQL injection that my code is vulnerable at? And here you get some tailored examples that can help you to bridge the gap between education and practice. Now you are in uni, you think like, oh, yeah, okay, I learned this. You are very theoretic. When you start to work, you are gonna realize that theory and practice are two different things. And this gap in the middle is something that you will be happy if someone could act as your senior developer, senior security engineer, help with, at least for my case. Let's now see the final case, which is security guidance. I put an asterisk here because we are gonna query something for code, for security, which is beyond code. Let's see. At the top, you have a Copilot icon that I collected, and I'm in the project Bootstrap. Bootstrap doesn't belong to me, super popular library for web. You can just go to their repo, github.com/bootstrap. But maybe you are considering using Bootstrap in your supply chain. What you can do is you can ask in there at the top right, what is the attack surface of this project? If I rephrase, what can go wrong security-wise in this project? Because you are thinking to use it. You can go and start reading millions of lines of code, or you can ask for a short list to understand where you can start focusing your attention to understand if this is a project that complies with your own risk appetite. How much risk I'm willing to take to use this on my supply chain. The second way is to ask AI to do something purely security related for you. In this case, I've picked fuzzing because it's something that I can explain easily and you can see here straight away as an example. So what is fuzzing? Fuzzing is an outside-inside approach. You have a published product, imagine google.com, you have a text box, or imagine chatgpt.com, you have a text box. And instead of writing one thing at a time, one question at a time, imagine throwing millions, hundreds of millions of things there to cause undesirable behavior. Of course, Google and ChatGPT have very strong teams behind, but imagine other software that has less budget, less talent. So your goal is to cause undesirable behavior. As a security specialist, I want to share that this process of coming up with millions and hundreds of millions of inputs takes a lot of time. And the ability to fuzz correctly has to do with your ability to generate nice inputs. Nice with quotes. Let's try to ask AI this. Can you fuzz the code on the right? The first thing we have is like, well, I can't fuzz for you, but I can give you the scripts to fuzz yourself. So here you get a script that explains to you how to automate the process around fuzzing an input. And here, this is the important thing, the bottleneck, what makes us slow. For those that have difficulty reading that, it says, can you generate the fuzzing strings? I would like to have a wide variety of inputs that are both invalid and unexpected. So here, you get a Python code. Instead of me having to write this code and you wait for the pen testing, or if you are a hacker and so on, to generate the good strings. And then here, you have this blue auto-generated text. It's designed to keep the conversation going between you and Copilot, so that if you don't know what to ask next, we pick the best possible question for you. Before we speak about privacy, quick note here. Whenever you want to hack something, you have to have permission. whenever you want to hack something in your company, you want to make sure that they know about it, and also the security specialists of your company know about it. I see a lot of people who laugh. Okay, privacy now. Many people ask me this. If I use Copilot, will it take my code and give it to somebody else? Will you take my prompts and learn from them? Would you steal my research and so on? There are 3 licenses. There is the business and the enterprise license that they retain nothing. They know nothing about your code. Everything happens locally. Nothing travels in the internet. The only thing they take is the prompt, just to see what you're asking about, your AI model, and then the prompt is go in the bin, and we give you the response. When you have an individual license, you have the chance to opt in or opt out at any stage, as you can do with any other software that you click this button, share analytics, and so on. And for those asking, it costs $10 per month, similar to Netflix. But if you buy the yearly subscription, it's $100 for 1 year instead of $120. There is this nice website for those that they want to use it but have questions around security or privacy, IP, labor, accessibility. Now, back to this problem as we are getting at the end of the slides. I showed you this slide in the beginning. There is one application security specialist for every 100 software developers. But I want to show you how is the situation in USA with AI tools right now. We did this research that we surveyed 500 developers with experience between 5 and 10 years, so they are senior developers, that work in US-based companies of 1,000 plus employees. So they are medium to large corporations. The first question was, what do you do every day? How do you spend your time? Surprise, surprise, they are developers. 32% was writing code. But look at this, 31% finding and fixing security vulnerabilities. Look how reactive these verbs are. Finding and fixing. It's reactive. The whole point of my talk is to bring security on the left. Shift left, these 2 words that you hear always, we should start from the developer. And then we are not there yet, but the fact that they are spending so much time there, and we ask so many people, says that the company thinks it's important and that their security is not so good, okay? And of course, some answers like getting feedback from end users, synchronous, asynchronous communication. Next question now becomes, okay, so you use AI, you have some time back in your hands, you make some productivity earnings, no? How would you like to use this time now? And you see equal number of respondents says code review and security reviews. So we are in this transition stage that companies, at least those companies, are getting their time back to put some security reviews at the left of the process before it's late. And finally, how many of you are using AI either inside or outside the company? It pretty much aligns with the room here. 92% is using them. This is another message. AI is already transforming how developers approach their day-to-day work. Today, we saw 4 ways developers can use AI to leverage the world's security knowledge. The first was to write safer code. Remember to test all your code, including the code that has been suggested to you. Find security issues. We saw some examples with CodeQL. Developer training with tailored examples. And then security guidance so that you can get the theory about the security thing and you can get faster as a security person. Other ways to use AI in security include the following. Both Microsoft and GitHub are developing actively some products in this area, but you see slowly things are coming out. Threat intelligence, you have to ingest large amounts of intel. AI can help you with that. Malware analysis for pattern recognition, so that you can find where this attacker was inspired from. Incident response, so you are more targeted when you try to go after an attack and the clock is ticking, and if you have been in a real security situation, the phone is ringing because you have a lot of calls from journalists, clients, lawyers, and so on. Penetration testing, we did it here today with scripting. SecOps, policy automation, again, incident guidance. And finally, generate reports if you are using ChatGPT to write a few things for you. We spoke about the challenge. You can find it in here, gh.io, secure code challenge. The first 3 who submit the correct answers win $350 voucher for the GitHub shop for t-shirts like this. There are some nice skateboards. In general, a lot of accessories, and also free shipping, because these things are gonna be shipped from California right to Portugal or wherever you like them to be shipped. The nice thing, by the way, is not the vouchers, is the training. So I developed this challenge to help students. It was with this place in mind. And it's also gonna give you a sense of a game that we developed. It's called Secure Code Game, to help developers learn about software security. It will be great, in the future when you go into an interview, you know a few things from here. There's a lot of room to cover. It's a game, it has a lot of success. In its first 6 months, 4,000 developers have played it, 1.8 thousand stars on GitHub. And in general, some companies are using it right now, startups mainly, to train their people. How it works? Every level has the same file structure. It has a code file that has functional but intentionally vulnerable code. There's a hack file. The hack file exploits the vulnerabilities in the code file. There's a hint, and there's also a model solution. There are 2 seasons for you to play. The first season is in Python and C, 1 level in C, 4 levels in Python. But the second season, where the difficulty resets, we start from the beginning. You can play in JavaScript, Go, Python, GitHub Actions. And the good news, we have chance for you to contribute. So if you have some inspiration or you want to get started with open source, you can contribute levels. The second season is 4 out of 5 levels are community contributed. So you are part of the revolution. You can find my team at GH Security Lab on Twitter. Again, we are a team that is focusing on security research. We are producing, of course, training, workshops, presentations, as you see, a game, but we are also finding security vulnerabilities in open source. The best vulnerability I ever found, but is nowhere near my team, it was in a famous cryptocurrency. It was top 4 when I was in uni, 2018. I managed to show a way to stop transactions randomly. I was in London, but I could stop a transaction anywhere I like. So it's fun. If you find vulnerabilities, be responsible. Huh? Okay, let's continue. And you can find me at JKCSO on Twitter or with my name and surname on LinkedIn. I like to produce videos to help developers. A lot of security people are like, this is how I hacked you, and this is what I took out of the database and so on. No, I'm also a developer. I use a different language. Reminder about this, if you didn't take a photo, take one. And finally, you have been a fantastic audience, but before that, I want to say something that I never say. You can watch my talks if you don't believe me. I never thank sponsors or organizers or anybody on a stage. But because I'm in a university, these guys here in the light blue shirts are volunteers, they are students, and the work they do is fantastic. If you have ever organized anything, imagine something of this scale, you will understand 5% what it takes to make something like this. and have the rest of the speakers that you have. So attend the rest of the talks. They are fantastic. And the first upload for the team around us. Thanks a lot. I'm here for your questions, and of course, you can catch me at the table outside to discuss even more.
Yeah, so now we're going to have the Q&A. Does anyone have any questions?
There's someone there.
Just a quick question. I'd like to know if the AI models that you use back there, are they based on the more generalized LLMs like GPT-4 and GPT-4 Turbo, or are they more specialized models?
Great question. They are more specialized. So imagine a farm of models. I don't know exactly how many they are, but they are a lot. Every model is trained in a specific language, in a specific kind of thing. Every time you prompt, there's a recognition process at the beginning to understand which model is the best to respond to what you prompt about. And there's a base that is based on the latest publicly available ChatGPT, with which you trained every single model specifically as well. Does this answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Hello. I had a question about CodeQL, that you mentioned that it queries your own codes. And you mentioned that you can find and query security issues. I was wondering if it only works for security issues or for other type of code.
Other people's code bases.
For example.
So, what you can do is not a trick, but I mean, if you go online and you find the code, you can take it, you can open a repo, you can paste it, and then CodeQL is free for public repos, free for open source. You can enable it in that one click, and you can find vulnerabilities. As the owner of an open source project, you have the chance to do so, but you alone, if they don't do it, you can grab all the project and do it yourself in a hard fork. Yeah? Cool.
Okay, we don't have any more time for questions here. You can talk to Joseph right there on the showcase. So first, a round of applause for Joseph, please. Now, we're going to sort this session's prize first. The winner is Francisca Gonçalves. Is she here? No? Next one. Henrique Águas. Woo! Pronto, é um bilhete do Festival do Rock in Rio, já agora.